Good morning, it's Kathy. I'm getting ready for the group coaching and mastermind call. Today is Friday, the 9th of March, and I'm so delighted to be sharing this. We got some people coming, and I'll be seeing you in just a blip of a moment. Stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. All right. Hello. It's Kathy with Quality Coach Kathy. I'm here for the group coaching and mastermind. It is my great pleasure to have a couple of dear participants online with me. We're going to get to know them a little bit as they share and have a chance to stretch your voices. But the purpose of this call is recorded live content to create some incredible value around tapping into wealth, and a variety of best practices so we can be more of our true selves. Okay, so today, what is today? The 8th?
March 9th.
It's the 9th, March 9th. So today we're going to be working on a theme I started last week called Choose Your Battles and Pick Your Fights. And we're digging into some material around fear. Okay, so it's going to be a good one. It's going to be 45 minutes, an hour of some participation, a little bit of material maybe that's new to your thought processes, and then some tapping. And at the end, I'd like to offer an opportunity to create an atmosphere of mastermind wins, because it is my firm belief that the piece of celebration and wins is one of the best things that a group can do with each other, is to propel forward the positive, particularly after we do some harder work around our own fears and our own difficulties in life. So I definitely come from the place of like the law of attraction, where it matters what we think about and talk about. It really, really does make a difference in our life experience. The thoughts that we repeatedly think and the feelings we repeatedly feel, and how that affects our actions and our words and our ultimate results. Given that, I don't shy away from the tough stuff. I think it's a mistake to put blinders on the pain or numb out, and that the only real way to become free is to face our challenges powerfully. So this content is in support of that exploration for you, my dear participants, for other people who might be watching this at some point in the future. So we're going to start together with some deep breaths, some centering, some grounding, and some deliberate punctuation of the power of this kind of work for yourself and for the world at large, because it does matter. When we're whole, it helps the world become more whole. So just in the deep breathing, right into the belly. Relax the front of the body. Give that nice nourishing breath to the whole physical system. You get that present moment awareness, the body's resource starting to become more and more accessible. And just how powerful doing that alone really, really is. Thank you, Greg and Ann, for being here and breathing with me. Yeah. We'll just do a couple more. You can expand the ribs a little. Wonderful. Fantastic. Now, as we dive down a little bit into this theme of choosing your battles and picking your fights. I want to give that breath, that resource to the body as much as possible for the energy and the courage it takes to shift inside ourselves and to shift in our actions and our behaviors. So that breath and that settling is so foundationally important to the deeper dives of what's difficult. Now, before we go a little deeper into, because just in the mention of fear and fighting and battle, we can't help but associate and start revving it up. Okay, so before we really rev it up, face it powerfully, let's anchor a little more into an intention or some kind of desired pursuit of good. So what I prefaced it with the power of facing it fully. I bring the intention of soothing suffering. That's my intention to be here today to offer content and work on this particular theme. I just invite the both of you and anyone watching and listening to take that moment in combination to that body resource of breath and that invitation for a higher purpose, a better purpose, it's a powerful purpose. So if you have it in your mind, that's fine. If you want to write it down, that's also fine. And I also invite either or both of you to speak it if you'd like.
I think my intention today is to, since we're talking about fears, is to acknowledge those fears and maybe become more open so that I can face them with a little more courage and make them maybe serve me better than they have in the past.
Awesome.
Mine would probably be I'm working on two aspects of my life, and they both have some fear around them. One is financial, and the other is relationships. So I just want to find ways to become more brave when it comes to facing some of the things I'm determined to change in those aspects of my life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hear courage, bravery, and I'm ready to deliver on that. I'm really excited to see where you're at in 45 minutes because this is one of those ongoing things, and it's amazing what can happen in a short period of time that can shift things in a big way long term. So I do promise some tapping. We'll be doing some emotional freedom technique at the end. But most of what I have to bring to you comes from Gay and Katie Hendricks, okay? So it's a combination of material, and I wanna just give that preface to you. So now let's start talking about fear. Let's start really looking at your own fears and fear in general. So let's go from a global place first and ask, where does fear really come from? And I have pieces of this, and somehow we instinctually know, right? It just seems inborn, doesn't it? It seems as though fear is an aspect of all of life almost. Like if we didn't have fear, it wouldn't be life. And I think it's okay to really allow for the sort of devastating reality of how powerful fear is in our world. So the fear, where does it really come from? I have some ideas. What comes to your mind right away?
Fear of the unknown.
The unknown. Yes. Anything else, Greg?
Well, I feel like the fear comes from old stories. And we kind of project those stories onto what we think may or may not happen in the future. And I think that's where a lot of mine comes from.
Yes.
Yes. And I'm going to go even deeper into the biology, because the fear of the unknown has an intellectual quality to it, like a higher faculty quality to it. Stories are definitely more of an advanced factor of it. And the reason why I say it's like the water we swim in is because fear is primal survival. It goes so far back into our mammalian brain, into our neurological functioning. It's essential to survival.
Mm-hmm.
And this profoundness gives us space to start accepting how important it actually is that we work with it. Because we are more advanced. We do have a mastery over our narrative and our stories. And we do have consciousness beyond survival, beyond that mammalian-based stay alive drive. But we cannot, and we actually don't want to separate ourselves from that powerful gravity of survival. But we do want to get some space around how we use it, how it benefits us, what we do with it. Because we don't want to just survive. We're in a modern world. We're not being chased by lions. We're being chased by our own past stories and programming. And that triggers so much of the body. So let's talk about so we've got the primal base fear. We've got more intellectual, we've got modern day pressures, and we've got identities. So where does it actually come from? It comes from that base to survive, and then our earliest family paradigms. What we've learned as young children, what we've experienced in our lives, and what we've been trained to fear. And the truth is, our media is creating more and more reasons to be afraid. There's more and more evidence for the bad results of fear, the violence, the aggression that are based in fear. And this intense roller coaster in our modern world is so alive and so active that it can seem very overwhelming, and it has an effect on us. It has an effect on our actions and our activity every day, and our conversations and our choices. But how do we shift it? How do we befriend it? How do we free ourselves from it? Well, the first thing really is to accept that it is. We're never, and it's a bad news, but it's true, and the truth frees us. We're never going to be completely free of fear until we're dead, until we die, because it is so linked in survival. Now, that being known, we want to start seeing how it affects us so that we can shift it. So what are the body responses of fear? accelerated heart rate, maybe flushing of the skin, maybe draining of the skin, maybe a hot or a cold piece of the body response. And this is how we know we're in fear, is our body's responses. So digging a little bit into the Kate and Gay Hendricks material, they talk about the 4 aspects of fear, 4 phases of fear. Everyone's quite familiar with fight, flight, and freeze, right? And it's very powerful to bring in this other aspect that they call faint.
Faint?
Faint.
Okay.
Faint or flop fear. And I have personally found this additional distinction another helpful indicator of how fear affects us. So if you take your fists like this and you go, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, this would be like the fight action. And fight, when people are in fear and they go into the fight personality of fear, the fight sort of reaction to fear, it's often confused for anger, right? It can look like anger, and it can have the destructive aspects of anger. Oh yeah, and this is the need to survive. This is the need to survive. And it's gripping you, and it is real in the body. There's a whole cascade of chemicals in the cortisone chemicals. The body is responding, and the personality or the circumstance will bring out, oh yeah, right? And this is an indicator. Fear. So we'll go through the next 3 and get those indicators very present in the conversation. So the flee or the flight, getting out of there, I'm gonna fly out of this situation, indicates sometimes people will start turning a shoulder. Yeah, I understand. And they're moving. Their feet are literally leaving, and bodies don't lie. This is the beauty of body wisdom and the beauty of physical intelligence. They don't lie. And if someone, you, me, anyone is in a flee or flight start of fear, their bodies are starting to leave somehow. But even long before that, their brains, the fog of fear, has some really powerful automatic habitual responses, and it affects the mind. All of our body resources go to survival, base survival. And it could look like a boardroom of business people in a luxurious hotel, right? The survival instinct is not dependent on environment. It's dependent on perception and the experience of the body. So we look for those body indicators. We look for those places where fear starts affecting us. So flee or flight, the head might start coming back. Yeah, I understand you want that from me, but I am so afraid that I am moving away from the situation, the conversation. And fear is reactionary. It's not a place of being responsive or being able to act with our fullest self. It's not a place of resourcefulness and creativity. It's not a place of collaboration. Fear it justifies violence. Fear objectifies and creates obstacles out of other people. When we're in our fear, another person becomes either in our way, an obstacle, or an object. You know, they're very similar, but we have to move them, manipulate them. And you will see this in people's personalities that habitualize fear. They're not talking to people, they're talking to their own objective. I need to do this so that I can feel safe. So the fleeing bodies will start moving, toes will start going towards the door, heads will start pulling back. That's the body language of flight fear. And it can look like hurry, right? I got to get out of here. So for freeze, well, freeze is a little, you know, more of a still movement. Because people will freeze, they may flush, they may sink down, and some part of them is gone. The mental aspect of fear is always a fog. In all four of these sort of personalities of fear, it limits the higher faculty to creatively think. It totally shuts down the capacity to feel safe and loved in a connective way. So that freeze looks like, and they're glazed. Freeze is a glazing, frozen body experience. Now the fourth one I find to be very interesting. It's that flop or faint, and you can kind of see that there's that overwhelm. This kind of fear has more along, it's got an energy of overwhelm, but a fainting or a flopping. There's activity, there's movement, but it is not coordinated. It is not organized, right? The flopping kind of fainting, fearful person may look like they're doing a lot of stuff. They may be telling you all about the overwhelm, but really they're not resourced. They're in fear. They're in fear of their own loss of identity. They're in fear of some kind of financial loss. They're in fear of connective loss of some belonging. So when we're in fear, the other piece, so it creates people into objects, it creates people into obstacles, but it also is the engine of war. It's the engine of giant movements that perpetuate fear. So it's really important that we, in our own life, have some access to shifting fear to flow. You know, shifting fear to resource of some sort. So before I go into the 4 antidotes of these fears, the body movements that are cures for these fears, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of sound out. Have you heard anything new, Lee? Have you heard anything brand new? Any nuances of takeaway so far for you about the discussion of fear?
When you said the flop, I'm thinking about people that I know and situations that I've been in where either they were in fear or I was in fear, and the way I'm starting to deal with fear in a different way and being able to go into it and allow the fear to happen and then work through it and get to the other side. Yeah. I love that. And then also just what I have one person in particular when you talked about the flop thing, I'm watching that happen right before my eyes, because there's all this movement, tons of movement, and energy swirling around. But it's definitely, fear-based. You said fear of failure, fear of, identity loss. It's interesting
Yeah.
stuff.
It's very interesting stuff. And going back to that very beginning of fear is survival. When we bring love and acceptance to the fear, it soothes it. It supports a resourcefulness out of it.
Yes.
But our programming, our world, our inundated material inward is battle the fear, fix the fear, ignore the fear, or some other multiple, keep scurrying around the fear. All of these strategies perpetuate the machine of war, perpetuate our own feeling of inadequacy and pain. There's physical pain associated with fear. If we're in fear enough, our bodies break down. Our bodies are not meant to be in fear constantly. So we want to find more of these direct antidotes and direct skills, things that we can practice and habituate that move that fear into flow.
You also have different layers of fear that go along with it. I mean, you had that initial fear, but then you have the fear of losing face, of being found out, of being fearful. So now you've got being fearful of being fearful. So now you get caught up. Now you might have more than one thing going on as far as those different aspects.
Right.
And to the body, yes.
And you can't see it. It's like you said, it's a fog. I felt it before.
Yes.
Yeah. We all have. We're actually born into feeling it, and then our families and our world shows us and tells us a lot of things to be afraid of. Just gender issues alone. You're born and you're a boy or you're a girl, and we immediately are trained to be afraid of not being what we're told we are. Like, very much so. We need to fit, we need to survive. Fear, it leads to shunning and shame. These are the pieces of how it evolves into all of these stories, these programs. Because not only are we afraid a lion might get us, we're afraid we'll get shunned or rejected from our root tribe. That's how survival-based it is. And in our more modern world, our tribe is our identity and who we think we are. Absolutely.
Who we're pretending to be.
And we're afraid if we don't pretend to be that, we won't have our love. We won't get what we need. And the simple answer is we don't have to get into the details of our own fear story. It actually doesn't help. Face the fear. We get kind of caught in that fix, change, resist, or scurry around in it. What we have to do is feel the fear and notice what our body is doing, our particular personality. And we have a kind of go-to usually, but we all range all of them, right? But feeling the fear and then doing this antidotal movement and you can do all the antidotal movements, or you can go, oh, I'm in the fight fear, and you do exactly the fight fear antidote. And I'm going to teach you those now. Okay. So I just love this because it really is simple. And anytime you have simple, you have more access to it and more, I just say power to it. So and I'm going to have to stand up a little bit to demonstrate this, just so you can see the whole body. These antidotal movements, these remedies for the 4 fears, can be done in large movements or small movements. They can be done very obviously or more discreetly. So that's one of the reasons why it's so simple, is because it's immediate. You have your body, you have your consciousness, and it's not ever dependent on your circumstance. It's not like you have to go outside to deal with your fear. You can sit in the boardroom, in the chair, notice the fear, and do one of these movements. So I'm gonna give you the bigger sort of versions and then the little versions. So the antidote for fight is swaying. So if you're in like, oh yeah, and you just start swaying, it soothes the nervous system out of fight. You get planted. The movement is more around moving around obstacles than fighting right into the obstacle. And the body will respond. A little bit of swaying, and you can do it in your chair. And I invite you to just try it, just to feel like, what is that swaying? If you notice, I'm feeling, oh yeah, and you're like, I'm in fear. I can feel I'm foggy. I'm foggy for some reason. It's fear. Do any of these movements and breathe, and it will shift. It will move. So swaying is the antidote to fight. And then what's considered the sumo is the antidote to fleeing. And it makes sense if you feel, oh, I'm foggy, I got to get out of here. I'm going to just pretend so that I can get out of this situation. Anytime that is noticed, it's sumo. It's get your feet on the ground, get your arms up. It's that power stance of presence. It's very correlate, active. If you're trying to run, no, ground, plant, open. And it is a direct antidote to that personality of just, I gotta get out of here. Yeah, No. Breathe and be there. Now, I used to think that I was a fleer. I thought that was, flee, freeze. But it's really the flop that is got the personality that is most appealing to me. And I do all of these. But the antidote to flop, and I will get to the flee, fight. I missed one. Let's do the flop. So the flop's the overwhelm, the overactive, but it's the fog. It's a really sweet movement of scooping. It's the idea of, okay, there's all this fear, I'm foggy, the energy, and you just scoop and make a contact with your heart or your abdomen. Mm. You're scooping up love. You're scooping up resource and scooping in, and just scoop and it can be done in a small way, you know, kind of discreetly. And it's such a simple but a direct physical antidote to that scurry, hurry, over movement, but it's just overwhelm. It's a faint. It's like, I can't do anything. I'm doing everything and nothing. Scoop in that love and scoop in the resource. It's just such a sweet, sweet thing. Oh, one last one, the freeze. So the freeze is that sort of blank, maybe flushing, sort of depleting freeze fear. So the antidote to the freeze fear is shaking. It's shaking. Because the shaking movement melts the frozen. Just shake the hand. And when I feel frozen, and I have definitely felt this one, it helps to really shake. Shake, shake, shake. You're literally shaking it off, you know? Now these movements build confidence. That's the beauty of shifting fear into flow, is when we shift it, we get momentum into our creativity. We get momentum into our true voice. We get momentum into our conversations and activity. And it's just amazing. And you don't have to know all the details of why you're afraid or where it is. You just need to notice the fog, the fear, and the personality. And if you can't quite access it, just start doing the antidotes. Just start shaking. Be like, yeah, that does feel better. And just start scooping. Do any and all of them. And if you go into sumo and you go into that stance of presence and you do your breath and you're like, nope, I'm still feeling afraid, then you know you need to shake, right? If you're in the sumo and it feels like frozen fear, shake, right? And if you're in like, oh, I'm shaking and actually I'm really mad, I just feel like, oh, you know it's fight, and you start swaying. Okay, I'm gonna sway a little bit. Let this kind of move. Shift the fear to flow. Right? So, there you've got the 4 antidotes to fear, the 4 fears and the 4 antidotes. And I just hope, and I really hope you bring this to some of your students, because this is so simple for kids. They can get this. And the piece around noticing the fear and knowing that you don't have to stay there. The fear would have us believe that it is what's keeping us alive. The fear itself will say, you need me or you're going to die. And that's where we go back to the, I do need you, but I'm going to love and accept that I'm actually not safer in fear. This is the art. If you're in the, oh yeah, or you're in a, are you actually resourced? No, it's not safer. So we want to befriend the fact that, okay, fear, we understand. It's like taking a little part of yourself and saying, I'm going to befriend my fear. It's an aspect of my humanness. It's an aspect of my earliest child survival. And it believes it's the reason I'm alive. But I know that's why we do it when we're not in fear. So, I have a poll for you guys. I made one of these polls in the Zoom room. I'm going to pop it up and we'll give you guys a little chance to look at it. Choose your battles and pick your fights. Can you see it?
Yep.
First question, where does fear come from? Family paradigm, society, inborn, delusion, real dangers, all of the above.
All of the above.
What are the body sensations of fear? Flushing, heat, cold, sweat, foggy thinking, cowarding, blanching, heart rate increase. Number 3, what's the problem with fear? It keeps me safe. Maybe that is not a problem. I don't know. I think it is not a problem. Makes it hard to respond versus react. Pain in the body. Makes more fear. Separates self from body intelligence and resource. That's a problem. Makes others into objects and obstacles. Justifies violence and contempt.
All of them.
Yeah. And the last question I put on the poll, what more do we need to know about fear? There's actually 4 types. Easy movements that cure each type, the value of shifting fear to flow, and ways to improve our habits. So just kind of putting that out there as a recap for you guys. Well, before we move into tapping, how's your body feel after just a little bit of those movements?
Relaxed.
I like those ideas. That's good. I pictured a room full of my students like all swaying at me.
Yeah.
That means they wanted to fight you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd be like, oh, I need to pull back on the reins a little bit.
Yeah. That scooping movement.
I love that. That's beautiful.
That scooping movement, the simplicity of it and the energetic of it is very resourced. You can see and feel how that like overwhelm just gets cured. Just a simple cure. Yeah. All right. Well, let's end with some tapping, okay?
Yay.
So we'll do a few minutes of tapping. We'll start with a setup statement on the karate chop point. And I'll say some words. You guys are welcome to do call and response if you like, or not. I know that the recording, yeah, just use your voice. I think the words are really, really helpful. And if you prefer to mute yourself out, you're more than welcome to mute yourself out. But when I do tapping on video, I really encourage people to tap along. This is where it makes a difference for you, is when you do it and when you say it and when you practice the different pieces of the emotional freedom technique.
So would you like us to repeat after you say it?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's do it.
Thanks, Ann.
Let's do it right.
Do it right. Well, that's the thing, is you can't really break it.
Okay.
No, there's not a wrong. Fear.
Fear.
It's a really big deal.
It's a really big deal.
And there's a lot of it.
And there's a lot of it.
It's based in survival, and I see that.
It's based in survival, and I can see that.
And I can really feel my fear.
And I can feel my fear.
So I'm going to bring some love and acceptance to this.
I'm going to bring love and acceptance to this.
I'm going to bring love and acceptance to my fear.
I'm going to bring love and acceptance to my fear.
And I'm going to bring love and acceptance to the big fears.
going to bring love and acceptance to the big fears.
Let's tap through the points. Fighting,
Fighting,
fleeing,
fleeing,
freezing,
freezing,
fainting and flopping.
fainting and flopping.
These ways fear affects me.
These ways fear affects me.
I've felt them all.
I have felt them all.
Fear really hurts.
Fear really hurts.
Part of me believes I need to be afraid.
Part of me believes I need to be afraid.
Shouldn't I be afraid?
Shouldn't I be afraid?
There's a lot to be afraid of.
There's a lot to be afraid of.
Part of me thinks I have to be afraid.
Part of me thinks I have to be afraid.
I'm going to accept that part of me thinks I have to be afraid.
I accept that part of me thinks I have to be afraid.
But I really don't want to feel afraid.
But I don't want to feel afraid.
I can tell it makes me foggy and unresourced.
I can tell it makes me foggy and unresourced.
And actually, I don't feel safe when I'm afraid.
And I don't feel safe when I'm afraid.
I don't make great decisions when I'm afraid.
I don't make great decisions when I'm afraid.
I really want to fix it.
I want to fix it.
There's no fixing to it,
There is no fixing.
but there is acceptance,
But there is acceptance.
and that helps a lot.
And that helps a lot.
Noticing my fear helps.
Noticing my fear helps.
Facing my fear and feeling it is so powerful.
Facing and feeling my fear is powerful.
And now I even have movements.
And now I have movements.
Fighting,
Fighting,
freezing,
freezing,
flopping,
flopping,
and fleeing.
and fleeing.
All these ways fear
All these ways fear
affects me.
affects me.
I'm just going to honor it.
I honor it.
And I'm going to accept that it's powerful.
I accept that it's powerful.
And I'm going to forgive myself for being susceptible.
I forgive myself for being susceptible.
Because I do want to survive.
I do want to survive.
I want more, though.
I want more.
And that's why I'm facing it.
And that's why I'm facing it.
And I face it with my movements.
I face it with my movements.
I have this amazing body.
I have an amazing body.
And I can sway.
I can sway.
And I can sumo and get really strong.
I can sumo and get strong.
And I can shake.
I can shake
And I can scoop.
or scoop.
And I can love and accept myself anyway.
I can love and accept myself anyway.
Tapping helps too.
Tapping helps too.
I can tell right now.
I can tell right
Fear's
now.
only a word.
Fear is only a word.
I don't have to feel it.
I don't have to feel it.
I can make it flow for me.
I can turn it to flow.
I'm going to say yes to flow.
I say yes to flow.
I'm going to say yes to the power of shifting fear to flow.
Yes to the power of shifting fear to flow.
I can tell my habits are changing
My habits are changing
and becoming more courageous.
and becoming more courageous.
I can feel my bravery growing.
I feel my bravery growing.
I can feel the results getting better.
I feel the results getting better.
Yes.
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 Take a couple deep breaths, wrap up your tapping.
Woo, I love that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, you guys are amazing. I want your flow to continue on through your days. I'm so delighted that you came and joined me for the group coaching and mastermind. Before we wrap up, because we're nearing the end of the hour, I want to give you an opportunity to stretch your voice, share your insights, and maybe look a little to the future of how you might see this be used in your life.
I think it's new new information and to have tools to be able to deal with it and use the body, and also just thinking, go ahead and just feel the fear and and notice what happens in your body. That may be just enough right there. May not have to do anything else. That may be enough. So that's pretty powerful stuff.
Awesome. Thanks. You're muted, Anne.
I love tapping.
Yeah.
It just changes the whole dynamic for me. And I like your ideas for movement, because I'm a movement-based person. So for me, it fits in well. And I think I'm going to become way more aware of people's body language and identifying, fear is a big deal. And I really like the facing it idea and moving, swaying, moving around, because I have a tendency to fight. And I've been really working on that and trying to be more interactive with people instead of just saying, no, I'm going to fight you on this. I've found that doing it with a little more finesse, and I like that swaying idea. You can get to the other side with people. I like that a lot.
Beautiful.
Got a new resource.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
And you know why? We want more. We want all our creativity. We want all our resources. We're actually amazing, creative, and powerful and brilliant humans that when we master and marshal our faculties and our resources, peace is possible. Resources around the planet can change. I mean, personal relationships where it really matters to our unique circumstances. That's where we say we thrive. We're moving towards more and more of our brilliance and more of our inborn blessings of abundance and connection and love and security. That's really the other side that we're going to. And that becomes a very important anchor point for why we face it. For why we face it. So that's just so beautiful. That's why we're here together. That's what brings us together. Any last celebrations, insights, words, any piece of yourself you want to contribute or share before we wrap up? You guys are amazing.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome, Greg. Thank you. Thank you, Anne.
Very nice.
Come back next week, you guys. Every week's a little bit different. This week I'm here hosting on my own, But on Fridays, I have other Tapping into Wealth coaches who are coming as well and helping co-facilitate different experiences. Wendy Fisher is an anchored part. She's on vacation this week, but she'll be back, and we're moving through the Tapping into Wealth modules as well. So we're doing a variety, like she'll be the coach, so to speak, and then work us all through the modules. And then, you know, I'm there to support her, and we're doing all of the Tapping into Wealth modules on these calls, as well as a variety of other material like this. So every week is different. Every week is standalone, but it still builds into the Tapping into Wealth work, and we do tapping every call. So, just between the grounding in the beginning and the tapping at the end, it's a great Friday start, I think, to my day for sure. And I hope for other people as well. So you guys are amazing. Come back.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kathy.
You're welcome.
That was awesome.
Bye for now.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.